The late summer sun stretched golden across the fields, coating the rolling acres of Emily Carter's family farm in a warm glow. Emily was quiet by nature, a young woman who preferred the company of her horses and the whisper of the wind through the corn to the constant noise of town life. At 23, she was back home after years away, and neighbors thought she'd gone off for college or travel. What they didn't know was that Emily had lived a double life, one that required secrets, discipline, and a toughness hidden beneath her gentle smile. Emily was dealt a force. She had joined the army straight out of high school, pushing herself past every limit, earning her way into the most elite special operations unit in the world. Missions had taken her across deserts and jungles, through hostile cities where every shadow meant danger. But after years of relentless action, she had returned home on leave, seeking peace in the same fields she'd run barefoot as a child. But peace never lasted long. The trouble started small. A group of local teenagers, bored and reckless, began hanging around the edges of her property. At first it was harmless, spray paint on an old barn wall, a few broken bottles tossed into the pasture. Emily noticed but said nothing. She had patience, a soldier's patience, and hoped they'd tire themselves out. But soon, the kids grew bolder. They were 5 in total, led by a boy named Tyler who was 18. Tall, and cocky in the way only someone who had never faced consequences could be. One afternoon, Emily was repairing a section of fence when she spotted them trudging through her field like they owned it, laughing and shouting. They didn't see her at first. Tyler pulled a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, striking a match and handing them around as the others set up targets from her stacked hay bales. Emily's jaw tightened. She approached silently, every step measured. "You're trespassing," she said firmly, voice steady but calm. The boys spun, startled. For a second, none of them spoke. Tyler smirked after his initial shock. "Relax, farm girl," he sneered. "We're just hanging out. There's nothing out here anyway." "There's my land out here," Emily replied, eyes hard. "Now leave." The other teens shifted uncomfortably, but Tyler puffed his cigarette and grinned wider. "Or what? You gonna sick your cows on us?" His friends laughed. Emily didn't rise to the bait. Instead, she stood tall, arms crossed, gaze unblinking. Her silence unsettled them more than anger would have. Finally, Tyler waved his hand dismissively, and the group wandered off. But the defiance in his eyes told her it wasn't over. That night, Emily double-checked the locks on the barn and house. Years of training taught her to trust her instincts, and they whispered trouble was coming. 2 nights later, it came. The boys returned after dark, headlights off, sneaking onto her property in an old pickup. They whooped and hollered, smashing bottles against fence posts, scaring her horses, and trampling her fields. Emily, who had been awake cleaning her rifle, an old habit she couldn't break, slipped outside. She didn't bring the weapon. She wouldn't need it. She moved like a shadow, circling behind them as they lit firecrackers and stuffed them into hay bales. Her farm was her home, and she would defend it, but not with bullets. She had other ways. "Having fun," she said suddenly, her voice cutting through the night. The boys froze, spinning around. Tyler cursed. "You again. What are you gonna do? Call the sheriff?" Emily stepped into the pale moonlight. "You don't want me to handle this my way." Her calmness rattled them more than shouting could. Tyler, unwilling to lose face, waved his arms. "Get her," he barked, as if this were some schoolyard scuffle. 2 boys lunged forward. Emily's training kicked in, fast and precise. She sidestepped the first, grabbing his arm and twisting until he was face down in the dirt with a cry of pain. The second swung clumsily, and she ducked low, sweeping his legs from beneath him with a sharp kick. Both were on the ground before the others processed what had happened. "What the hell?" one muttered. Emily's eyes locked on Tyler. "This is your last chance. Leave." But Tyler, red-faced and desperate, charged at her. Emily moved in a blur. A pivot, a grip on his collar, a swift yank, and he was flat on his back, gasping for breath with her knee gently pressing his chest. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind him he was powerless here. She leaned down, voice cold. "You think you're tough because you can scare animals and break things. Real strength doesn't come from destruction. It comes from discipline, respect, and knowing when to walk away." Tyler's bravado cracked. His friends, wide-eyed, hovered uncertainly, unwilling to step closer. Emily released him, standing tall again. "Get off my land," she ordered. They scrambled for the truck, dragging Tyler with them. The engine roared, tires spitting gravel as they fled into the night. Emily stood alone under the stars, heart steady, breathing calm. She had seen worse, much worse, but something about protecting her home felt different, more personal. The land wasn't just soil and fences, it was her sanctuary, her family's legacy. And no gang of careless kids would ever take that from her. The next day, word spread fast in town. The boys weren't bragging about their little adventure, instead, they whispered about how the quiet farm girl had taken them apart like they were children. Tyler avoided her eyes at the general store, and the others crossed the street when she walked by. Emily didn't need their fear. She didn't want it. All she wanted was peace, and now, finally, she had it. Back at the farm, she saddled her horse and rode through the fields, the sun warm on her back, the land stretching endlessly ahead. She had fought in deserts and jungles, saved lives in places where chaos reigned. But here, in the quiet heart of the countryside, she fought for something just as important, her home. And Emily Carter, Delta Force elite, always won her battles.